Western Cape Premier Winde has hit back at Police Minister Bheki over policing resources in the province. On Friday, Minister Cele stated that the Western Cape received the most policing resources and funding. But Premier Winde says that simply isn't true. Well, he speaks to us now about all of that. A very good morning to you, Premier, and thank you so much for joining us. So how untrue is the minister's statement?
Absolutely. You can't come here in the middle of an election when we are, we know that our policing numbers are even less today than they were 2 years ago. We know that right now, if we look at our detectives, and we've got the highest murder numbers, if you take per population ratio in the Cape Flats to South Africa. If I look at the policing numbers to population, it is absolutely untrue. We're sitting with, at the moment, with about 548 detectives too few. We have about 5,000 police officers too few. The norm is one police officer to 225 citizens. And if we go to the real hot spots where the citizens of this province are feeling it, the police minister's deployment of police officers is absolutely atrocious. If I look at Ravensmead, one police officer to 895 citizens, Harare, 1 to 734 citizens, Nyanga, 1 to 682 citizens, and so we go through. Philippi, 1 to 518, Kailita, 1 to 480. So there definitely is not the deployment that we need, and it is also not deployed properly. And then, of course, you can go into all sorts of other aspects of policing in this province. We have under-training in our detectives. We have, unexpected caseloads. 48% of our detectives have more than 200 cases that they're working on. You will not get an outcome. Even our other norms, which should be around 50 to 60, are way higher caseloads than you would see anywhere else in the world. So even those caseloads are way out. We are not getting the cases coming through. If I look at how they are tackling, gender-based violence, and I look at the 36,000 DNA backlog of tests, there is absolutely no commitment, but a staged election roadshow where the minister says, no, you've got adequate resourcing. Well, that is unacceptable. And if the minister really wants to tackle crime, he should engage with us instead of giving us less than 20 hours notice of this mass gathering, number one. And number two, I really think if he really wants to see a change in crime, give us in the province the opportunity to manage SAPs at this region.
Premier, one of the selling points of the Democratic Alliance in their lead up to the elections is that the Western Cape, which the DA governs, is it's got the right kind of law enforcement, the right amount of law enforcement. It's one of the most secured places, or at least they're saying that if you vote for the DA, that you will be voting for a party that, essentially puts out enough law enforcement to deal with crime in this country. And hearing what you're saying about the crime that is in the Western Cape, who then do we listen to? Do we listen to the minister who says, well, we are doing as much as we can, or do we listen to the DA that says, well, we have the capability to put out enough law enforcement around the country?
Okay, so we must remember that the one thing is that whose responsibility is policing. And policing responsibility is Minister Bheki at a national level, and we say we need to devolve the power. So, with just over 20,000 police officers deployed to the Western Cape, that is deployed by Minister Cele and the South African Police Services. But we say they are incorrectly deployed, they are incorrectly managed, and if we look at the overall deployment across South Africa, if we have the murder rate that we have, and if we are serious about dealing with it, we need the proper deployment. If you go to parts of our province, the deployment numbers are much closer to the 1 to 225, but they are not being deployed to where the crime is. Now, we are saying that as the province, or in order to get that right, give us the power. We can't make the decision on how those 20,000 police officers are deployed. That's made by the national central government. We are saying give us the power. But in the meantime, if they're not going to hand the power to us, what we are doing is increasing the number of deployed officers. So we have already, from the province, put money aside, and we've deployed to those hotspot areas. But I mean, we've got to 1,000 deployed officers, and they're going into the 10 murder hotspot capital areas of the Cape Flats. We are deploying them according to science and data. So we're saying, you know, the highest crime rate happens at these times of the day, at this times of the week, and we are deploying them. We are adding them to the police deployment. We don't have that power as it is. We are calling for that power. Give us the devolution of the power of policing decisions. This is what we will do with it. We'll show you, and already in the interim, even if you don't give us the power, we are increasing numbers in law enforcement on the ground to make a difference. We are adding K9 units to make sure that we're sniffing out the drugs. We are putting violence prevention programs, because it's not only about policing, it's about coming in from the beginning, the first 1,000 days of a child's life, making sure that if you're making a community safer, that you're following up with economic activity, with other opportunities. We've got to do this. It's a holistic approach to dealing with crime. But, you know, we don't have the big lever of policing. That still is at a national level. But we are saying that's part of our manifesto and our policy, is to say, let's devolve power closer to the people where the crime is, so that that's where those decisions are made. So the management part is definitely not managed by us. That's managed by a minister, clearly. So he comes here to say this is what they're doing, but in reality, we measure every single one of those police stations. That's why we can tell him how many police officers. Half of the vehicles that are deployed within the system don't work or are under-maintained. That is a bad management process. You know, get the vehicles working, give our inspectors the training that they need, give us the number of detectives that we need to be able to fight crime. You know, don't just come here and stand on a stage and talk about it. Show us, help. I mean, and we really do. How do we make resources available to neighborhood watchers to help them? It's a holistic approach. We cannot do it on our own. We need to all do this together, but we also need proper, decisive, clear management, and that is not coming from Minister Bheki, clearly.
Of course. Premier, you're a senior member of the Democratic Alliance, and the party, some would say, shot itself in the foot this week with the posters in Phoenix. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I see that that has changed. I mean, I always think that when you're in a campaign, you need to make sure that you have a system of going through how you put your messaging out. So I see that has been changed, and that's good. You know, obviously, I'm not part of those decisions, and make sure that in the Western Cape we are running things smoothly and effectively, and making sure that our communications are also out there.
Well, Premier, thank you so much for joining us here on Newslink on eNCA. That is the Premier of the Western Cape, Winde.